The spaceship was old and slow. It made strange noises every time it moved, sat near the window and watched the stars pass by. She was 23 years old, small and thin, with black hair tied in a simple ponytail. Her hands were rough from years of working with animals back on Earth. She had spent 4 years studying alien creatures at the Xenobiology Academy. Now she was going to her first real job. Station Omega-7 appeared in the distance. It was huge, like a metal city floating in space. Thousands of lights blinked on its surface. Ships of all sizes moved around it like insects around a lamp, pressed her face against the window and smiled. This was her new home. The station was a wildlife preserve. It held the most dangerous creatures from across 12 star systems. Scientists studied them here. Some creatures were the last of their kind. Others were too deadly to keep anywhere else. Had read about this place in her textbooks. She never imagined she would actually work here. Her ship docked at the lower level. The doors opened and stepped out, carrying only a small bag and an old leather satchel that belonged to her grandmother. The air smelled strange, like metal and chemicals. Aliens of all shapes walked past her. Some had 4 arms, some had no arms at all. Some floated, some crawled. Had seen pictures of alien species before, but seeing them in person was different. She felt very small. A tall, insect-like creature approached her. It stood on 6 legs and had large, compound eyes that reflected the light. Its voice came from a translator box on its chest. "You are the human from Earth." "Yes," said. Her voice was quiet. "I am here for the trainee position." The creature made a clicking sound. "I am coordinator. I run this station. Follow me." They walked through long hallways, moved fast on its many legs and had to jog to keep up. The coordinator explained the rules of the station. Do not touch the enclosures. Do not feed the animals without permission. Do not enter restricted areas. The list was long. "You will work in maintenance," said, "cleaning, basic repairs, simple tasks for a new worker." Nodded. She was disappointed but tried not to show it. She had hoped to work with the animals directly, but she understood. She was new. She had to prove herself first. Stopped at a small office and handed a tablet. "Your schedule and room assignment. Report to work tomorrow at first shift." Then the coordinator left, moving quickly down the hallway without looking back. Found her room on the lower deck. It was tiny, with just a bed, a small desk, and a window that showed only the dark metal wall of the station. She sat on the bed and looked at her tablet. Her schedule was full of cleaning duties, nothing exciting. But something was wrong. At the top of her file under position, it said, "Large Predator Specialist." Stared at the words. That was not right. She was a trainee, a novice. She had never worked with large predators in her life. Someone had made a mistake. She tried to contact coordinator, but the system said the coordinator was unavailable. She tried the administration office, but it was closed for the night cycle. She would have to fix this tomorrow. The next morning woke up early. She put on her uniform and checked her tablet for her first assignment. Her blood went cold. The screen showed a picture of a creature she recognized from her textbooks. It was called a 6 legs, black scales that seemed to eat light, 4 glowing eyes, claws that could cut through metal. It was from a planet called Prime, a death world where everything evolved to kill. It was considered the most dangerous land predator in the known galaxy. And her assignment said, morning feeding, enclosure 7X solo duty. His hands were shaking. This had to be the mistake. The wrong job title in her file had given her the wrong assignment. She rushed to the administration office, but the door was locked. A sign said it would open in 3 hours. She tried to find other workers, but the hallways were empty. The first shift had not started yet. She was alone. Her tablet beeped. A message appeared. Report to enclosure 7X immediately. Feeding schedule cannot be delayed. Stood in the hallway, her heart beating fast. She could ignore the message. She could wait until someone fixed the mistake. But then the creature would not eat. How long had it been since its last meal? What if it was starving? She thought about the years she had spent studying. She thought about all the books she had read, all the lessons she had learned. She thought about why she had come to space in the first place. She wanted to help animals, all animals, even the scary ones. Took a deep breath, then she walked toward enclosure 7X. The hallway to the enclosure was long and dark. Warning signs covered the walls. Danger, extreme hazard, authorized personnel only, past them all. Her legs felt weak, but she kept moving. She reached a large metal door. A screen beside it showed information about the creature inside. The had been captured 40 years ago. It had killed 14 handlers. No one had successfully fed it in 6 rotations. All automated systems had failed. Looked at the small tray of food in her hands. Synthetic meat, measured and prepared by machines. It did not look like much. She pressed the button to open the door. The enclosure was huge and dark. Fake rocks and dead trees created a landscape that looked like an alien forest. Somewhere in that darkness, the deadliest predator in 12 systems was waiting. Stepped inside. Behind her, she did not see the security cameras turning to watch. She did not see the alerts going out to every senior staff member on the station. She did not see security chief running toward the control room, his hand reaching for the emergency kill switch. All she saw was the darkness ahead, and 2 pairs of glowing eyes opening in the shadows. The eyes in the darkness did not blink. They watched with a cold, hungry focus. She could hear breathing, deep and slow, like wind moving through a cave. The sound came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Stood very still. Her training had taught her about predator behavior. Sudden movements triggered attack instincts. Running away made you look like prey. The worst thing she could do right now was panic. So she did not panic. She looked at the glowing eyes and said in a calm voice, "Hello, I brought you food." The creature did not respond. Of course it did not. It was an animal, not a person, but it always talked to animals. Her professors at the academy thought it was strange. Her classmates laughed at her, but she believed that tone mattered more than words. Animals could feel kindness, even if they could not understand language. She took one slow step forward, then another. The eyes tracked her movement. She could see more of the creature now. Its shape emerged from the shadows like a nightmare becoming real. It was bigger than she expected, much bigger. Its body was 8 feet tall at the shoulder, covered in scales so black they seemed to pull light into them. 6 powerful legs supported its weight. Each leg ended in claws as long as her forearm. Its head was flat and wide like a snake's head, but with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. When it opened its mouth slightly, she saw rows of teeth that curved backward, designed to trap prey and never let go. It was the most terrifying thing had ever seen. It was also, she noticed, very thin. The creature's ribs showed through its scales. Its movements were slow and heavy, not the quick motions of a healthy predator. When was the last time it had eaten properly? 6 rotations without food, her tablet had said, but looking at this creature, thought it had been much longer than that. She stopped walking when she was about 20 feet away from the. This was close enough. Any closer would be foolish, even for her. Then she did something that made no sense. She sat down on the ground. She crossed her legs. She placed the food tray in front of her, and she picked up a piece of the synthetic meat and put it in her own mouth. The meat tasted terrible, like wet cardboard mixed with chemicals, chewed slowly and swallowed. Then she picked up another piece and ate that too. In the control room, security chief was shouting. He was a species of large reptilian warriors. His scales were covered in scars from old battles. He had hunted void beasts in the empty spaces between stars. He had killed creatures that most species only saw in nightmares, but he had never seen anyone do what this human was doing. "She is insane," he growled. His claw hovered over a red button on the control panel. The incineration. One press and the entire enclosure would be flooded with plasma fire. The would die. The human would die too, but at least it would be quick. Wait, said Doctor. She was the station's, a human woman who had worked here for 15 years. Her eyes were fixed on the screen. Look at what she is doing. On the screen continued to eat. She did not look at she did not make any threatening gestures. She just sat there, eating slowly as if she was having a peaceful meal in a garden back on Earth. The watched her, its 4 eyes never blinked. Its body was tense, ready to attack at any moment, but it did not attack. Minutes passed, 5, 10, 15. His claw began to cramp from hovering over the button. He did not move it. Then something changed. It lowered its head, not in an attack position. The motion was different, slower, almost curious. It took one step toward, then another. Its claws clicked against the ground. The sound echoed through the enclosure like drum beats. Did not run. She did not even look up. She just kept eating piece by piece as if nothing unusual was happening. The creature stopped 3 feet away from her. Its massive head hung over her small body. One bite and she would be gone. One swipe of those claws and she would be in pieces. It lowered its head further. Its nose almost touched the food tray. It smelled the meat. Then it smelled. Its breath was hot against her skin. She could feel the power in its body, the strength that could destroy her in an instant. She picked up a piece of meat and held it out in her open palm. "It is okay," she said softly. "You can have some. I do not mind sharing." The creature's mouth opened. Those terrible teeth gleamed in the dim light, did not pull her hand back. Gently, more gently than anything that size should be able to move, that took the meat from her palm. It chewed once and swallowed. Then it lay down beside her, its massive body curling around her like a protective wall, and began to eat from the tray. In the control room, no one spoke. No one moved. They watched in complete silence as the deadliest predator in 12 star systems shared a meal with a small human woman who should have been dead 17 minutes ago. Doctor was the first to find her voice. "That is not possible," she whispered. "That should not be possible." Slowly removed his claw from the incineration button. His hands were shaking. In all his years of hunting, in all his years of killing, he had never been so afraid. Not because of the monster on the screen, but because of the human sitting beside it. What kind of species could do this? What kind of creature could walk into death's home and make friends with it? He did not know, but he was beginning to understand why humans had spread across the galaxy so fast, why other species treated them with such strange respect. It was not because humans were strong. It was not because they were smart. It was because they were absolutely, completely, terrifyingly insane. And sometimes, insanity was the most powerful weapon of all. Every morning, walked into enclosure 7X every morning, that was waiting for her. The other workers on the station did not understand. They watched from behind the safety glass, their faces full of fear and confusion. Some thought had special powers. Some thought she was using secret technology. Some thought she had simply gone mad and was living on borrowed time. But Doctor watched carefully. She recorded every visit. She studied every interaction. And slowly she began to understand what was happening. "Human vocal frequencies," she explained to security chief one day. They were standing in the observation room, watching brush the scales with a large cleaning tool. The creature lay on its side like a giant cat, its 4 eyes half closed in contentment. "What about them?" asked. He still did not trust the situation. His hand was never far from his weapon. "Lived in packs before their planet died," Doctor said. "They communicated through low-frequency sounds, calls that helped them bond with each other, calls that said, 'I am not a threat, I am family, I am safe.'" She pointed at the screen. Human voices, especially female voices, fall within that exact frequency range. When talks to the creature, it hears something it has not heard in 40 years. it hears a pack member. Made a rough sound in his throat, so she sounds like its mother. Something like that, but there is more. Doctor pulled up data on her tablet. Look at her body language, no fear responses, no aggression signals, no submission postures. She treats the like an equal, like a friend. The creature does not know how to respond to that. No one has ever approached it this way before. Because everyone else was smart enough to be afraid, said. Doctor smiled slightly. Perhaps, or perhaps everyone else was too afraid to be kind. Inside the enclosure had moved to the creature's shoulder. She was running her hands along its scales, pressing gently in different places. They made a low, rumbling sound. It almost sounded like purring. Then stopped. Her hands pressed against one spot near the creature's third shoulder joint. She frowned. "What is she doing?" asked. Doctor leaned closer to the screen. "I do not know." Pressed harder, the flinched, not from aggression, from pain. His face changed. Her gentle expression became serious. She examined the area more carefully, feeling along the scales, pressing and testing. The creature allowed it, though its body tensed with discomfort. That evening came to Doctor's office. "There is something wrong with him," said. She had started calling the him instead of it. No one corrected her anymore. "What do you mean?" Doctor asked. "His shoulder. There is something hard under the scales. It feels like bone, but it is in the wrong place. I think there is something stuck inside him." Doctor pulled up the creature's medical files. They were thin. No one had been able to examine them properly in decades. Any attempt to sedate it had failed. The creature was too strong, too resistant to chemicals. "He was captured 40 years ago," Doctor said, reading the old reports. "There was a fight during the capture. Several bones were broken. They healed, but—" She stopped reading and looked at. "You think something did not heal correctly?" "I think something is still inside him. A bone fragment, maybe. It is causing him pain, constant pain." Eyes were bright with emotion. "That is why he attacks people. He is not evil. He is hurting." Doctor was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Even if you are right, there is nothing we can do. We cannot sedate him. We cannot operate on him. The board will never approve the risk." His jaw tightened. "Then I will ask them myself." She did ask. She wrote a formal request and submitted it to the station board. She explained her theory. She described the location of the injury. She requested surgery to remove the bone fragment. The board rejected her request in less than 1 hour. Too dangerous, too expensive, too unlikely to succeed. That was valuable but not valuable enough to risk a surgical team. Read the rejection message in her small room. She sat on her bed for a long time thinking. Then she made a decision. The next morning, she did not bring food to the enclosure. She brought a medical kit. Security chief saw her on the cameras. He saw what she was carrying. His blood went cold. "Stop her," he ordered his team. "Stop her now." But was already inside the enclosure. The door sealed behind her. The raised its head when it saw her. It made a greeting sound, low and gentle. It trusted her completely now. It did not know what she was planning. Walked up to the creature and knelt beside its shoulder. She opened her medical kit. Inside were sedative patches, dozens of them. They were designed for humans, not for a creature this size. She would need to use all of them. "I am sorry," she whispered to "This is going to feel strange, but I promise I am trying to help you." She placed the first patch on its neck, then another, then another. The creature looked at her with its 4 glowing eyes. It did not understand what was happening, but it did not resist. It trusted her. 30 patches, 40, 50. The eyes began to close. Its breathing slowed. Its massive body relaxed, sinking to the ground. Kept placing patches until the creature was completely still. Then she picked up a small cutting tool and looked at the shoulder joint. Her hands were steady. Her heart was calm. In the control room, watched with his finger on the incineration button. His whole body was shaking. He could not look away. Made the first cut. Blood flowed dark and thick. She wiped it away and kept cutting. Layer by layer, she worked her way deeper into the creature's flesh. She had studied anatomy for years. She knew where to cut. She knew what to avoid. 20 minutes passed, 30, 40. Then her tool touched something hard, something that should not be there. She reached in with her fingers and pulled. A piece of bone came out. It was as long as her hand, sharp and jagged. It had been pressing against the creature's muscles for 40 years. Every time the moved, it felt like a knife stabbing into its body. Held up the bone fragment. Tears were running down her face. "No wonder you were angry," she whispered. "No wonder you hurt people. You were just trying to make the pain stop." She cleaned the wound and sealed it with medical gel. Then she sat down beside the unconscious creature and put its massive head in her lap. 3 hours later, the woke up. It lifted its head and looked at. It moved its shoulder experimentally. No pain. For the first time in 40 years, there was no pain. The creature made a sound, not a growl, not a roar, something softer, something that almost sounded like a question. Smiled and stroked its scales. "You are welcome," she said. The lowered its head back into her lap and closed its eyes. It would never let anyone hurt her, not ever, not for as long as it lived. She had given it something no one else had ever given it. She had given it kindness. The news spread fast, first across the station, then across the sector, then across the entire galaxy. A human woman had tamed the video of surgery appeared on every network. Scientists wrote papers about her methods. Military leaders studied her techniques. Philosophers debated what it meant for the relationship between humans and other species. Did not care about any of it. She just wanted to spend time with her friend. She had given the name. She found the word in old records from Prime. It meant shadow that protects in the ancient language of that dead world. The name felt right. Followed her everywhere now. The station board had tried to keep him in the enclosure, but he refused to eat when was not there. He became aggressive again. They had no choice but to let him out. So the most dangerous predator in 12 star systems walked the hallways of Station Omega 7 like a pet. Workers pressed themselves against walls when he passed. Security teams kept their distance, but never attacked anyone. He only had eyes for the small human woman who walked beside him. Talked to him constantly. She told him about Earth. She told him about her family. She told him about her dreams of helping creatures across the galaxy. Could not understand the words, but he understood her voice. He understood her kindness. Offers came from across the galaxy. The military wanted to study her abilities. Corporations wanted to hire her. Governments wanted to use her as a diplomat. She refused them all. She was happy where she was. But happiness does not last forever. The alarm came without warning. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. Was in enclosure when it happened, giving him his morning meal. All personnel seek shelter immediately. Station under attack. Repeat, station under attack. Ran to the window and looked out. Her heart stopped. Ships, dozens of ships. They surrounded the station like wolves around a wounded animal. Their designs were rough and ugly, covered in weapons and scars from old battles. She knew those ships. Everyone in the galaxy knew those ships. The Void Raiders. They were pirates, the worst kind of criminals. They attacked stations and colonies, stealing everything of value and killing everyone who resisted. Their leader was a man named, a human who had abandoned his own species to become a monster. The station shook as the first weapons hit. Explosions echoed through the hallways. Grabbed her tablet and checked the emergency channels. The news was bad. Security chief was organizing a defense, but his teams were outnumbered. The raiders had already breached the lower levels. They were moving fast, heading toward the wildlife sector. Of course they were. The creatures here were worth fortunes on the black market. A single could buy a small planet. Warning, enclosure breach in sectors 4, 5, and 7. Containment failing. The raiders were letting the animals loose, creating chaos, making it easier to capture the most valuable specimens in the confusion. Looked at, there was on his feet, his 4 eyes fixed on the door. He could hear the explosions. He could smell the fear of the workers running past. Every muscle in his body was tense. "Stay here," said. "Stay safe." She ran toward the door. Did not stay, he followed her. The hallway was chaos. Workers ran in every direction. Smaller creatures had escaped their enclosures and were attacking anything that moved. Security teams exchanged fire with raider soldiers at every intersection. Saw coordinator lying on the ground. The administrator was not moving. 3 raider soldiers stood over the body, laughing. One of them saw. He raised his weapon. Moved. Had seen move before, but never like this. He was a blur of darkness, faster than anything that size should be able to move. His claws cut through the air. The soldier's weapon flew in one direction. His arm flew in another. The other 2 soldiers tried to run. They did not get far. Looked at the blood on the floor. Her stomach turned, but she forced herself to stay calm. These men had come to kill and steal. They had made their choice. "Come on," she said to, "we need to help the others." They moved through the station together, opened doors and freed trapped workers, protected them from raiders. The soldiers had weapons, they had armor, they had training. None of it mattered against News of the shadow demon spread through the raider ranks. Soldiers began to retreat. They had come for easy treasure, not for a fight against the deadliest predator in the galaxy. But was not afraid. The warlord came personally to the wildlife sector. He was tall and heavily modified, with cybernetic arms and eyes that glowed red in the dim light. His reputation said he had killed 1,000 people. His smile said he had enjoyed every death. "So this is the famous beast tamer," said. He stood at the end of a long hallway, surrounded by his best soldiers. All of them pointed weapons at him. Stepped in front of as if her small body could protect him. "Leave this station. You have done enough damage." Laughed. "I came for the creatures, but now I think I will take you too. Imagine the price I could get for a human who can tame monsters." He raised his hand, ready to give the order to fire. Looked back at her. She saw intelligence in those 4 glowing eyes, understanding. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I know you hate this. I know you want to be peaceful now, but I need your help just one more time." Lowered his head. He was not agreeing to help. He was asking permission. Permission to protect her. Nodded. The lights in the hallway went out, not because of damage, because scales absorbed every photon in the area. The darkness was absolute. The soldiers fired blindly. Their shots hit nothing. Screams began. They lasted for a very long time. When the lights came back on, was the only one left standing. His soldiers were gone, not dead, just gone, dragged into the shadows. He could hear them somewhere in the distance still screaming. Stood in front of him, blood dripping from his claws. His 4 eyes glowed like stars in the darkness. Cybernetic legs tried to run, was faster. The warlord fell to the ground, pinned under one massive claw. He looked up at the creature above him, at the teeth that could end his life in an instant. Then he looked at. "Please," he whispered, "please call it off." Walked up slowly. She looked down at the man who had killed thousands, the man who had attacked her home, the man who had threatened her friend. She said softly, "That is enough." The stepped back. Stared at her. He could not understand. He had spent his whole life using fear and violence to get what he wanted. And this small human had stopped the most powerful predator in the galaxy with just 2 words. "What are you?" he asked. Smiled. It was not a kind smile. "I am a novice," she said. "I am just learning." She walked away, following beside her. Behind them began a shake, not from cold, from something deeper. For the first time in his life, the warlord understood what it felt like to be prey. The battle for Station Omega-7 ended that night. The remaining raiders surrendered without a fight. They had seen what happened to their friends. They had heard the screams. None of them wanted to meet the shadow demon. 47 soldiers had entered the wildlife sector. Only 3 walked out. They were alive because had told to stop. Even now, days later, they would not speak. They just sat in their cells and stared at nothing, their lips moving silently. Security Chief found flagship 3 days later. It was drifting in space, all power systems dead. The crew was alive but broken. They repeated the same words over and over in 17 different languages. The shadow that walks with the human. No one knew what had happened on that ship, never talked about it, could not explain, but the story spread anyway. It grew with each telling. By the time it reached the far edges of the galaxy, it had become a legend. The human girl who tamed death itself. The Galactic Council sent representatives to Station Omega-7. They came with offers, military command, research directorship, diplomatic status. They promised power and wealth beyond imagination. All she had to do was join them. Let them study her abilities. Help them understand how to control creatures like. Listened politely to each offer. Then she said no. I did not tame him, she explained to the confused diplomats. I became his friend. There is a difference. But surely you want something, they insisted. Name your price. Anything in the galaxy can be yours. Thought about it for a long moment. Then she smiled. I want a ship, she said. Something small, fast, with room for 2. The diplomats exchanged confused looks. That is all, just a ship. And one more thing. Pulled out her tablet and showed them a document. I need you to sign this. They looked at the document. Then they looked at her. Then they looked at who was lying beside her like a mountain of darkness, his 4 eyes watching them with ancient intelligence. The document was simple. It declared to be official emotional support animal. It gave her permission to take him off the station. It removed all restrictions on where she could travel with him. The lead diplomat's face turned pale. You want us to declare a pet? Companion, corrected. He does not like the word pet. Made a sound. It might have been agreement. The diplomats argued. They debated. They sent messages to their governments. In the end, they had no choice. Had saved the station. She had stopped a warlord. She had proven that she could control the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. If she wanted to take that creature for a walk across the stars, who were they to stop her? They signed the document. 1 week later stood in the docking bay of Station Omega-7. Her ship waited behind her, small and sleek and fast. Everything she owned was packed inside. It was not much. Just her grandmother's leather satchel, some clothes, and enough supplies for a long journey. Doctor came to say goodbye. They had tears in her eyes. Where will you go? She asked. Looked out at the stars. Wherever we are needed, there are other creatures out there, other planets, other stations. Someone has to help them. And if you meet more monsters. Smiled and put her hand on his massive head. There are no monsters, just scared creatures who need someone to understand them. Doctor hugged her. Be safe and take care of each other. We will. Security Chief was there too. The old warrior stood at attention as passed. He did not speak. He did not need to. The respect in his eyes said everything. And boarded their ship. The engines hummed to life. The docking clamps released. And then they were gone, flying into the vast darkness between stars. Reports of their activities appeared over the following years. A slave colony on the edge of civilized space, suddenly freed. A pirate fleet in the outer systems, scattered and broken. A dying world's ecosystem, mysteriously saved by someone who knew exactly which predators to introduce and where. No one ever saw them clearly, just glimpses, A small human figure, a massive shadow beside her, and then silence. But the story that spread furthest was simpler than all the others. It was not about battles or rescues or saved worlds. It was just a single scene, repeated in bars and academies and warship bridges across the galaxy. A human novice walked into a monster's cage. She brought nothing but food and kindness. And the deadliest predator in 12 star systems looked at her and saw something no one else had ever shown it. A friend. The other species of the galaxy had always known humans were strange. They were small and soft and weak. They had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons of any kind. By all logic, they should have died out long ago. But they had not died out. They had spread across the stars like wildfire. They had built empires and alliances. They had made friends with creatures that should have eaten them. And now, watching the legend of and grow, the galaxy was beginning to understand why. Humans did not conquer through strength. They did not dominate through fear. They walked into the darkness with open hands and gentle voices, and somehow, impossibly, they made the darkness love them. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. It was so very, very human. Somewhere in the endless night between stars, a small ship flew on. Inside, a young woman slept peacefully, her head resting against warm scales. Beside her, a creature that had once been called the deadliest predator in the galaxy kept watch, its 4 eyes scanning the darkness for any threat. It found none. Nothing in the universe would dare threaten her, not anymore. The shadow that walked with the human had made sure of that.